Meeting to order. Welcome to the October 7th Board of Directors meeting for the Canal Recreation Park District. Mr. Hare, would you be so kind as to lead us in the flag salute tonight?
I would be honored.
Thank you.
And of your heart, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And I see no special presentations.
How about roll call?
Roll call? Okay, roll call. We'll go with roll call. I skipped right over that. Yes, please. Would you call the roll for us, please? Yes.
Yes.
Here.
Here.
Yes.
Ms. Gabby, do we have any folks from the public wishing to address the board? Thank you, ma'am. Approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I move approval of the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Next, we have a consent calendar. Are there any issues, any questions, any changes? And if not, a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve consent calendar items A and B.
Thank you, Director Lang.
I'll second.
Director Huffer with a second. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Let me check.
Aye.
Any
Oh, got
opposed?
it.
Okay, that
Thank you.
passes. Thank you. I see no deferred matters. So that brings us to an item for discussion. Mr. General Manager, you want to direct us through that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair Nichols and members of the board. So this item for discussion is truly, a brainstorm almost. It's not fully baked. It's not, I don't know exactly where this should go, but I did think it was worth introduction of the idea at a formal board meeting, because what I have been doing and what I'd like to continue to do is explore what it might mean if the Canal Rec and Park District's boundaries were the same as those of the school district. And you may say, why is this and why does it matter? And as I get into this actual discussion item, what I did want to point out is a few things, handouts that I've provided the board. There's a memo from HDL, Corin and Cone. So there's a little memo there. It's an analysis of properties within the Canal Valley Unified School District outside of the Canal Rec and Park District area. We have a 8.5 by 11 map that is, it shows the Canal Rec and Park District boundaries and then the additional area that the school district serves. And then I just, an 11 by 17 that's right off, I think, the Canal Valley Unified School District's website, that just is a much clearer map of the streets and roads that are in the area. So I don't know if Gabby, you can pull up the one and only map I gave you. Perfect. So that is really the area that we're talking about. And I have to actually be looking at my iPad because of my notes. Okay, so what you're looking at that map is, and I'm colorblind, so I apologize if I say the wrong colors, but it looks like light blue is the Canal Rec and Park District boundaries. And then some other bluish color is the school district expanded boundaries, which includes the Park District boundaries as well. So those areas up top are the actual parcels that are at the bottom of the 23 freeway as it goes to Tierra Hada Valley. So, Underwood Farms on one side of the 23 and more other Horsey Ranch properties on the other side of the 23. And then south, Canal Rec and Park District already has the Lake Sherwood area in its service area and its boundaries, but it does not have the rest of Hidden Valley or Carlisle Canyon, which is another residential street kind of back there before you start really heading over the mountains at Decker. So the school district does have those in its jurisdiction and we do not. So why the historical reasons for that, I do not know. And I will try to find those out in my exploration because I'm just getting started on this. So I did do a little, and if you remember on April Fools, I kind of had that, hey, what if we annexed all the way to the beach? Well, I really actually was sort of thinking about Hidden Valley more than anything. And the reason is simple, because I believe, well, first of all, you have to drive through Canal Rec and Park District jurisdiction to get in or out of Hidden Valley. You cannot get in or out of Hidden Valley without going through our neck of the woods. So I actually believe we do in fact provide the rec and park services to the residences that are in there. But so with that said, I'm going to give a little bit more background on what you're looking at and what it might mean, could mean financially. And I'll also report a little bit on what I've heard from a few quick conversations. So in those areas that the school district serves that we do not, there's about 300 parcels.
Excuse me, Jim. Hidden Valley, where is that exactly?
The south end of the map, that's the bluish color, the dark blue. So the bottom of the map.
Which map?
Oh,
The one
up
up
on the
there.
TV,
Up on the
Oh,
street.
up on the
okay.
TV. Yeah, up on the TV there.
Oh.
Yeah, that one. So that's basically, it's Hidden Valley and Carlisle Canyon. Very interestingly, if you really look at it plotted, it actually goes all the way to like Tri Peaks and Sandstone Peak and everything, which of course is all state and national park property. But, you know, obviously, I guess if there's a ranger that lives in a house, so it's one of the, in some property, maybe they send their kids to a Canal school. But the area, both Tierra Hada Valley and Hidden Valley, is about 300 new parcels. It's mostly farms and ranches and vacant parcels with only about 70 residential parcels. The total assessed valuation of all 300 parcels is about $500 million, 550 million. And the residential portion of that, just the 70 homes, their assessed valuation is about 230 million of the 550 million. So it's a substantial, it's the wealthy ranch properties and estates. So when you have an assessed valuation that high, the 1% property tax generates about 5.5 million in property taxes for all jurisdictions, schools, state, city, you know, whoever, it wouldn't be city because they're not in the city, but whoever they're paying their property taxes to, it's about 5.5 collectively. And CRPD's weighted average of the 1%. So what percentage of that 5.5 million would we get? We get about 5 cents of the property tax dollar, meaning that we would get about $280,000 a year in new property tax revenue if we were to have all 300 parcels in our jurisdiction, and the county agreed with us to have a tax sharing agreement to share all of the tax revenue that we would otherwise get if we served them. So here's some things I found out when I did a little digging. So what would be the steps? And I thought, okay, you just file an application with LAFCO, but it's a lot more complicated than that. And really, the first hurdle, according to Kai at LAFCO, is they won't even accept a application for an annexation. Technically, it's called a sphere of influence and change of organization application. LAFCO won't even accept one unless and until we already have an established property tax sharing agreement with the county. So step one would be for us to go to the county and go, hey, guys, be cool. We would like, you know, we would make the case. We serve these residents already, and we think we would benefit by having the tax revenues from these residents, and we would do that much better and more in the park and rec world if we were to serve them. They also are interested in what the, of course, property owners themselves think, and so there's a consent of the property tax owners. And as I talk about this, the concept I have in mind is not that we would raise anyone's taxes. It's just that instead of that 5 cents all going to the county where it goes now, it would come to CRPD. So the whose ox is getting gored, you know, it would be the county. The county would just up and share $250,000 or thereabouts with us. And that's more of a political equation than anything else. You know, we can make a case, we can demonstrate that we serve them. We can have pictures of Britney Spears at Wildwood and Jamie Foxx playing basketball and all the other folks we serve out there in different areas. But unless the county were willing to agree with us, I don't think it goes anywhere. So, you know, I've thought about this and I'm thinking, you know, why would the county want to do it? And I think there's a few reasons. The county might recognize that we do a really good job. CRPD does a really good job, and they actually want to see enhanced rec, park, and open space services in these areas and to the residents out there. I think, again, folks that do live out there, they may be extremely wealthy. They may have the capacity to build their own parks on their own properties, but for their own use. But in reality, people are social creatures. And if their kids or they themselves want to be in sports, you know where they're playing? They're playing on our property. They want to be in a theater production or do, you know, youth theater or teen theater. They're doing it here. Therapeutic rec, if they have somebody disabled, they're probably coming and using our services. Yes, Director Lynn?
Do we have a record in, Rochelle, you might know, a record of registrations of anybody from Hidden Valley?
We've started working on that. And so we don't have the info just yet, but we started doing a little research in that regard. So we started
I
looking at
mean,
it.
that'd be, here we're already serving,
Right.
quote, this number of property owners.
That's a good point too.
Yeah. Again, I believe humans are social creatures and, you know, they may well use our senior center, the services and the socialization. Certainly, if nothing else, our open space hiking trails, which are also mountain biking and equestrian trails. And we know a lot of folks do have horses and are riding in those areas. And then, you know, in terms of emergency situations, we do know horses are and large ranch animals are getting evacuated to our properties, either at Canal Creek West at the, you know, ETI's equestrian facility that's ours, or to Rancho Potrero, which is now specifically designed to take those extra horses. And then, of course, our community centers themselves, which you're going to hear later tonight, serve as an emergency evacuation shelter for people and when they need it. The other thing is if those folks are already in the school district boundary, and we have a whole bunch of agreements that we have with the school district where kids in the Canal do benefit from we have a facility sharing agreement. So the kids that are doing sports at the high school level often use our facilities for either practices or working out. We do the elementary music program. We operate the teen center, the after school rec programs, the homework help, which is, you know, part of, you know, Safe Passage, the summer pools, and then of course, youth outreach. So all those are things that we already do with the Canal Valley Unified School District, which again, serves those folks already. And I think, you know, the county may just want to see, you know, again, more rec, park, and open space services to those folks in the county, especially when you look at what is being done by the county in this area. And as best I can tell is that it's Santa Rosa Park down off Santa Rosa Road. And other than that, that's it. Versus, you know, and I don't want to do but they have this and they have that, but in reality, there's a whole lot of Ventura County park facilities that aren't located in our area that are being funded by general fund and enterprise revenues. And so it's an idea that's been sort of kicking around for a while with me, and it does seem to make more sense in the long haul, or I feel like I could make a decent case. And really for the discussion part of this, I just wanted to kind of get your vibe, your sense of all this. Is this tilting at windmills? Because I have had folks that I respect quite a bit tell me that you're tilting at windmills and the county is never going to do this ever. No matter how great a case you make, they're just not going to do it. They're not going to give up the tax revenue. But that doesn't necessarily mean it couldn't happen. And maybe if the economics are just right and the services the county delivers, they want to see CRPD do even better, maybe it could happen. So I just wanted, unless you guys sort of are down on the idea, I would continue to sort of slowly try to make inroads in this regard. And it's not a get it done in a year or two even. It's just like the long game, like start setting the table and see if in the long haul, this is something that might make sense. And when I really look out long and far into the future, I want to be careful how I say this. I don't want to go out and start building a park or buying property in those areas if the residents don't want to see a park or more public access in those areas. I'm not trying to bring people into those areas per se, but if in fact, way down in the future, they did want to see that, or there is property out there that could serve, not just maybe even our area, but regionally, especially up like say Tierra Haute or something. So the idea of a sort of a East County fairgrounds or something has been floated over the years in sort of the Tierra Haute Valley, like many, every few decades it comes up. So maybe hasn't happened yet, but anyway, so those are just my thoughts, and I'll be quiet and let you guys kick around the ideas.
All right, start with some questions. Since you already had one question, we'll start over here with the lady. Go ahead. Ms. Holt.
That's extremely creative, and I kind of approve of approaching this and determining whether what you're recommending is actually going to be able to be passed. I applaud you for the whole content of this, and hopefully the county, et cetera, will, and the residents will go along with it. But I think that's a very creative idea, and I appreciate the approach.
Director Lang.
Yes. Is it too early to sort of, whisper in the ear of our Ventura County supervisor?
Well,
we're having this in a public forum and talking about it on air. I right now, actually, I have a breakfast with Coulter Chisholm, the Ventura County Park Director, or the guy running the parks for the county, next week. And, I could be missing something. There could be some issue, some reason, some, very clear, like, aha, this is why it's a really, really bad idea. That I'm not aware of. So I kind of, I could be proven that I'm not right, but I just think starting to talk about it can only generate more questions and discussion. And maybe if it is a good idea, it'll eventually get to the finish line. So I guess what I would say is, if you mention it to anyone, it would be that it is the most preliminary, most very kernel of an idea stage, and that we're a long ways from getting to the finish line.
I understand, but yeah, I think it's important to, from the get-go, to broach the individual.
have support.
Director Cusworth.
Right.
So this may be something that is already known, but we do have other unincorporated areas like Lynn Ranch and Ventura Park. Are we getting taxes from them?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not understanding then why it wouldn't be natural if we are getting taxes from other parcels within our jurisdiction. And obviously Hidden Valley is within our jurisdiction and it's within the school's jurisdiction. It seems like a very oversight.
Yeah,
that
and
they-
again, like
that we're
what you
not
said
there.
is Hidden Valley is not in our jurisdiction.
I know, but what I'm saying is,
Yeah,
but it should be, when I'm saying jurisdiction, I'm meaning actually that they're using our parks. There's no other parks for them to use except for our parks. The same with Lynn Ranch. There's no other parks for Lynn Ranch to use except for our parks. They're not part of the city.
right.
They're part of Ventura County, but they use our parks and we get a portion of their taxes because of that.
Mhm.
And Ventura Park technically is not part of the city, but is part of the county, right?
Correct.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Ventura Park is, but we are getting taxes from them because they use our parks.
Correct.
So Hidden Valley is not part of the city, but it is part of the county,
Right.
correct? And so I don't understand
Yeah, why they?
why that is being treated differently since Ventura County is not providing them with parks. It seems like an oversight, like this a long time ago was an oversight and maybe there weren't many people there. My first question, which you kind of answered, go, why would Ventura County want to do this? But it just makes sense. If the school is getting the money for providing the education to the people who live here, I'm not understanding why it wouldn't naturally flow that Canal Valley would be getting that also, just in the same way that the schools probably are getting money for educating the children in unincorporated areas like Lynn Ranch and Ventura Park. So they should do that. It seems like, and so in that sense, it seems like an oversight to me. Why would Ventura want to do it? I mean, that was my first thought. Why would they want to give away the money? In some ways, I think, because it's the right thing to do is one reason, because it would be following the protocol for all of these other things that are happening with other unincorporated areas and with the school district. So another question I had, which you wanted, is that we would have to ask the residents what they think of this. They probably wouldn't care where their taxes are going because it's not going to change. And they probably would admittedly say, well, yeah, if we are doing anything, it's in Canal Valley. We're not driving into, Ventura by any means. I'm just wondering if the residents were wanting to help out, if it would be something that we would want to get signatures or something from the residents saying, hey, we're using their parks and I think that we should be supporting them. And then also find out, like you said, do they want anything? Knowing Hidden Valley, they probably don't want anybody coming in there and they don't want to do anything. They'd probably rather drive. But I'm just saying, to get the residents involved, like, hey, yeah, we do. Like George was saying, they are using it, but I don't know if we would want to have people actually sign something or something else like that to say, yeah, we go for it. It's the right thing. We're using the parks. So that's just my thing. To me, this is the right thing to do. And hopefully Ventura County is going to realize that. So that's all I have to say.
Director Huffer.
Yeah, just a couple of follow-ons to Director Cusworth's comments or questions. I too was wondering if you had looked at if there, I guess I would have to assume, but I always hate to assume anything, but I would guess that there must be some type of existing agreement already between the county and the park district for those parcels in Lynn Ranch and in Ventura Park that are part of the county, not part of the city of Thousand Oaks, but they are part of the park district, so that those parcels were collecting some of the taxes that otherwise the county would be collecting. So there must be something there already that would serve as a model or something for these other areas that we're looking at.
So I actually asked Kai, well, he actually pointed out that he goes, well, let me look and see if you have any existing tax sharing agreements, and we don't. So the tax structure actually is an outcropping of Prop 13. So Prop 13 passed. Then the following year or year after, they created AB 8, and AB 8 was a legislation that kind of froze everybody's relative percentage of the 1%, all the different taxing entities. It kind of got frozen in time in that, like 78 or 79. So we are just a product of what was agreed to for AB 8. And so that could be an unknown, I'm not as familiar, and I'll talk to the right people, but that could be a landmine because the county actually does have some ability to rearrange relative percentages among all of the entities receiving the tax dollar, the 1%. So that they hold a lot of control and power over that
Yeah.
question. So I wouldn't want that to sort of win this battle, but lose the war because the county says, we're going to rearrange AB8 allocation formula. And instead of you guys getting 5 cents on the property tax dollar, we're going to give you 4.5 or something, we end up worse off. So this has got to be something the county probably wants to do.
Yeah.
Then we're not going to be able to arm twist our way there.
Yeah. And then Director Cusworth also made the comment that why wouldn't the residents want to do this? Not going to affect them at all. But I have to wonder, not that it's a huge amount, but if they were to be added to the park district, would they not also be subject to our district-wide assessment?
Yes. they would.
And if they were, I mean, again, it's not a huge dollar amount, but we came across the deal a year ago up in Newbury Park with some of the residents saying, well, we're being taxed too much.
Mhm.
We're not getting what we pay for. If they don't have parks in Hidden Valley, they don't have parks in other than the one county park in Santa Rosa Valley, are they going to say, well, why am I paying this extra money for nothing?
Mhm.
So there would be some impact, I think, on those residents. And then the other comment, interesting that you bring this up because I believe from what I was able to hear in the meeting the other night, the special district meeting, that Rancho Simi said that they're wondering why Oak Park is part of the Rancho Simi district because it was Oak Park was part of the school district and they just used the same boundaries for the park
I heard
district
that
they did for
too,
the
yeah.
school district.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be an issue here that we're looking at, but just interesting that it was discussed just a few days ago. So
Mhm.
Yeah, Director Cuthbert, sure.
With the type of assessment that we're doing, and I forgot the name of it, we can allocate certain parcels that will have the extra property tax and others can be eliminated. So that could be a consideration. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we've thought that, I won't go all into it, but we don't have to have an extra tax for the entire district. We can decide which parts of the district would have the extra tax.
well, I'm not an expert in this area, but my understanding of the district-wide assessment district, every parcel in the district, which would include these parcels if it was added, is included and then there are some exceptions for the 2 additional special districts. But then I guess you would have to go back and carve these out as 2 more additional exceptions to the assessment district. Bottom line
Well,
is.
we haven't written anything yet, so I think that there's ways we could manage that. That's all I'm saying. If that was like a big deal. I don't know anything about
And
it.
actually, I think, yeah, you're talking about the benefit assessments that we existingly and currently have. You're talking about the possibility, the potential that the board won't look at until maybe in the spring or summer after another survey, whether we were to do something else. That we can draw the lines however we want.
So Director Huffer's talking about the current
Yeah.
assessment. Oh, okay, all righty. Thank you. for the
Director Lang.
clarification.
Yeah, I'm just curious, as some of you know, the current Canal Valley Unified School District is a makeup of, I believe, 3 districts, 2 elementary school districts and the Oxnard Union High School District. And I was just wondering if when they combined and created the Canal Valley Unified School District, if they just took those boundaries of those 3 school districts and this is what they ended up with.
Yeah, and that's another
I
thing we'll
don't
have to
know.
find out, yeah.
Because the Rec and Park District was created and in existence before the current Canal Valley Unified School District was created. So, I don't know the inner workings of this, but that's what I got to thinking.
Yeah, I think the district boundaries were there, but it just changed names as to whose district it was for the schools. I think. I have a few questions as well. Director Lang mentioned one, and you indicated that you're seeking, or trying to generate the data to support that we actually have residents in those areas that are taking advantage of, I presume, our programs. That's the only thing we really track data. I mean, not people who are visiting our parks or things like that. So that's something you're trying to generate as far as to support, hey, they're already using it. So appreciate that. The other thing I was gonna ask is the areas, both north and south here, they're currently served by the county for recreation and park amenities, is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
Now they may not have any physically located within that area, but the county would say, well, they're welcome to use any facility in the entire county.
Mhm.
But then we all are.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's no different because we're all residents of the same county. Okay. The other question I would have is, do the residents in those areas have the perception that they are affiliated with the Canal Rec and Park District? Many people have no idea where the boundaries stop and start.
Right. But I was gonna say, a lot of folks don't even know what we are in the first
Right,
place.
right.
So.
Now they do know that they're not part of the city and they
Yeah.
don't want to be part of the city.
Right, right.
There's adamant about that. They still may
I
not know
think
where
they
that
all
line
know
is, but
that.
they know if they're in it or they're
Right.
out of it.
Right.
But I'm not convinced that they would be so attuned to the park district, first of all, as you pointed out, its existence, let alone are they taking advantage of district facilities or programs? Because I presume we're not mailing them our packets out there, or our programming schedules and things like that.
We actually do that by zip code. So, I mean, because it's only 70 extra residents, who knows? Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
But it's not targeted is what I'm
No,
saying. It's not-
no.
Not to do that, okay. So that, I guess that would be a question for me is, if you took a poll, say, hey, do you use the park district facilities? And do you do that because you're within the district or you think you're entitled to, as opposed to, now you're crossing a line, and you're not supposed to, so to speak, but it's open to the public, so it does make a difference. The other question I had was, would there be any need to add facilities or parks in those areas to serve the additional population? But I think it sounds like there's not a whole lot of population there to do that. I think the majority would be in the Lake Sherwood area that's already being served in the district. So is there any, I wouldn't say not your personal intention, but is there any foresight is like, well, gosh, if we do this, we would have to add up? Or is it like, no, we pretty much got it covered as it is?
Yeah, I don't think that, because literally there's like 70 residential parcels. So, I mean, that probably just on math alone wouldn't justify even a neighborhood park, in terms of the
Sure.
need for a new one. But if you add Lake Sherwood to those other 70, you could argue there's enough people that maybe a public facility would be nice. But, again, that's going and talking to the residents and saying, do you want a public park here?
Right.
And I'm not sure what that answer would be out there.
And something else you mentioned in talking to LAFCO, that there would have to be an agreement in place before the steps could even take place for
Mhm.
annexation. It was my understanding that if the property owners themselves were driving this and said, hey, we want to be annexed to the park district, they themselves can generate a petition, hand it to LAFCO or the county and say, hey, we want to do this. And we want to have an election to, well, I think it's by mail.
Yeah.
We want to have an election or be able to vote to join the park district. Wouldn't that circumvent the need to have an agreement in place?
So this is an area I could probably be sharper on and learn a little more, but I believe we could do an annexation without any revenue.
Without what?
Any revenue. So they could become part of the Canal Rec and Park District. They just we don't receive any tax from them. So the county's like, cool, go for it. You're just not going to get any extra money.
Okay, so it's two separate issues then.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. But then, as Director Cusworth was saying, if we had an assessment, they could still be assessed because they're within the district. It just would be no taxation that goes along with that. Okay. All right. The other thing that I would see as a benefit is just consistency for the residents to not have to know where the city limits are located, where the school district limits are located, where the park districts are located. If it's all contiguous or consistent, where it's all the same, that's beneficial. But I guess it would be nice historically to know. I always wonder about things like historically, how did the city become a city, or how did a district become a district? Who decided that that line was a good place to draw the line, historically? I mean, we've got 4 water purveyors in the city. Well, how did that happen? Well, usually it depends on the lay of the land, which way does water flow? Because it's all gravity fed. So he said, well, if there's a high spot and it flows either side, well, that's where you want to divide a line. I don't know if it's that way with educational facilities or park district facilities or whatever. It's just a matter of, no, anybody can go wherever they want. So I don't know that there's necessarily a logical line that you could draw. I think mostly it's just, as you pointed out, well, who would be using our facilities and who really needs to have access to the facilities? And I think that would be the type of thing to point out, just as you did just a few minutes ago, of saying, well, gosh, it appears to us that if they want to do certain things, they have to come to us, or I guess City of Westlake Village, if they feel they're a little bit closer over there, that we're the go-to place. And so they're already using it. So that's certainly an argument to be made. Whether it's a swaying argument remains to be seen. But I think, I would agree that it's at least worth investigating, but I would weigh heavily on the opinions of the residents themselves and say, hey, this is what we're thinking, what's your input? Because I certainly want them to feel like they were invited to be a part of the park district and not coerced into being it, because they seem to think that it's good enough as it is. Otherwise, they'd be telling us that way. Director Ling, you had your hand up.
Yes, and your comment about a neighborhood park or what park would facilitate the residents of Hidden Valley. And I think to the west, Rancho Patero Community Equestrian Center, with the amount of property and so forth, I would think could be considered Hidden Valley Park, a Hidden Valley Park property to be available. It's it's basically right next to it, and it's that kind of an environment and so forth.
Director Hopper, did you have your hand up? Any other comments?
I would agree that I think it's something worth continuing to look at. Jim said it's still very early stages, but I'm just thinking of what the residents of these areas already use. Coming from my AYSO perspective, I know that more or most of the kids who come from families, say in Santa Rosa Valley, play in Thousand Oaks and also the CRPD fields, as opposed to playing in Camarillo in Pleasant Valley District. I'm sure that's the case with the Hidden Valley, because there's no other alternative for those kids. So all of those kids, I'm sure, would be playing not just soccer, but Little League and softball and all the other sports using our facilities. So I suspect that a lot of them are already familiar, at least with the facilities that we have, not the fact that they're the park district that runs them. But I think this is something certainly worth continuing to work on.
And I was going to say, well, $250,000 is, not something you just want to shake a stick at. It's not like it's a windfall either.
Right.
It's not like, oh my gosh, we're really raking. It's just like, yeah, it would help to serve the needs, but it's not like, oh my gosh, this is a gold mine we're looking for.
Right.
I think it's just a matter of making it right. It's like Director Cusworth was saying. Any other comments? Because this is just a discussion item, brainstorming. Any comments or questions or questions for the general manager is information that we might need to help make a decision if that comes forward at some point. So, yes, Director Holt.
I just want to say the last comment you made, that is just what is right and proper. We're not looking for a big windfall from them. It's just what it should be. And, you know, and that's our attitude about this. So I'm off work.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm sure we'll be having to provide more input later if necessary, but hopefully it'll give you a little something to chew on and process.
Thank you. Yeah, so in the event, you know, a county official or somebody asks, what is up with your crazy general manager? That's what's up.
He's just doing what he's paid to do.
Mhm.
Okay, next we have new items, 9A, with the County Ventura Human Services Agency. So I believe this was Ms. Smith, right? Oh, Ms. Callis.
it's me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair Nichols and members of the board. So we have in front of you guys the
this way.
subject of the County of Ventura Human Services Agency and evacuation shelter and temporary evacuation point agreement. So basically, in April of 2020, CRPD Board of Directors approved an emergency care and shelter services memorandum of understanding among the City of Thousand Oaks, Canal Recreation and Park District, and the American Red Cross. That shelter agreement, I believe you guys have, but you have seen it. So what the County of Ventura Human Services Agency, they have requested that CRPD enter into an evacuation shelter and temporary evacuation point agreement, similar to almost exactly the same as the one you guys signed or agreed upon in April. Basically, the reason for this is if an emergency happens, such as when Woolsey happened, and we had Red Cross here. Red Cross didn't have enough volunteers to operate the amount of facilities that we needed to serve the community. So CRPD and the city stepped in, and it was everybody helping. So what would happen is this agreement would allow the county to step in with their volunteer team if there wasn't enough services through Red Cross or other organizations. So we would already have the agreement set up. So we have the agreement with the city and the Red Cross, and then we would have the additional agreement with the county, allowing them to come in and help us also. So you could see potentially if we needed 4 facilities again, maybe Red Cross would be running one with all their volunteers. Maybe the county would be running a different one, us and the city on a different one type of thing. So this agreement just basically would allow them to have similar agreement as what we have with the Red Cross and the city of Thousand Oaks. It would allow us to have more support and more resources in the time of an emergency, and having the people and the volunteers that have been trained to really deal with the intake of folks during an emergency situation. So with that, the staff is recommending approval of the attached agreement. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, Director Huffer.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with this agreement, but what strikes me is that this is sort of a very piecemeal approach to disaster preparedness in the entire, well, in our community, but in the entire county, where, I mean, you have an agreement between us and the city, and an agreement between us and Red Cross, and now an agreement between us and the county. Does the county have agreements with the city? Does county have agreements with Red Cross? My recollection is that when back in 2020, when we were looking at the agreement with the city, that there had been some discussion about also having the school district involved. And for whatever reason, they didn't want to get involved, but the school district has all kinds of facilities that could be used in an emergency. So what I'm seeing here is a whole lot of little pieces, and who's going to coordinate all of these little pieces to make them actually work, so that when a disaster hits, the county isn't saying, no, we're in charge. The city says, we're in charge. And we said, we were in charge. It concerns me. So,
No, to your point, I did ask Daniel with the county, who was the person that I worked with at Red Cross, who now works for the county. And I said, I want to make sure that I'm not going to be in the middle, or CRPD is not going to be in the middle of, I've got both of you wanting stuff. And he said, no, this is the Red Cross is first. It's just, we're here to help, and we'll be trained to help if Red Cross can't get enough of the volunteers there, or, like we had, the freeway was shut down, and so volunteers couldn't even come over. So maybe the county has more people over here that they could have pulled in to help Red Cross, and or if Red Cross couldn't open something. My understanding is the county is trained by Red Cross and knows how to do the intake forms and account for people and separate people into the right rooms and stuff, to where we don't have that.
Yeah, but I mean, and that perhaps was a one-off disaster a couple of years ago.
Right.
But if the Red Cross couldn't get here, the county could not get here either. So it's really not an issue. So.
Director Lang?
I was just gonna say, I think the three groups are mature enough and organized enough. We've been through it in the past. That I don't think there's gonna be an issue. I think, as mentioned, or at least I understood, just the Red Cross is at the top. And we're just providing services, facilities, and assisting the Red Cross and the county in general. So I think it's gonna work out fine.
Director Cuthbert?
You may not know the answer to this question, but schools aren't considered disaster centers?
Schools aren't considered what?
Disaster centers. I mean, I thought schools were always considered potential disaster centers, but I thought they went to us before because schools were open, but so schools do work with the Red Cross if there is a disaster.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a separate agreement with them.
Well, they
Um,
probably do,
but
I
yeah.
just know that at our school, we have, it's all Red Cross is over in all the schools. So I think that we're sort of, I think they just want to be sure that they have plenty of places if necessary.
Because they work with
Yeah.
churches and stuff also.
Right.
So there's a lot of different options, because sometimes because of our programming, we don't have space available unless it's like truly, we got to shut down and do this. But
Yeah. I think they're just trying to cover their bases here is what they're doing. So,
I have a couple questions or comments. I noticed in the preamble of the agreement, it refers to if the incident has exhausted the resources of city and nonprofit agencies. Is that intentional to be city as opposed to park district?
I think it's because of the agreement that we have with Red Cross, the city and us. So if the city and Red Cross cannot assist, then county would come in and assist.
Okay, so it's assisting the park district, I guess, is how it intended to be played
That's
out.
what I believe.
Okay. And then I did see where it talks about major challenges or gaps. I guess that's what they're meaning by gaps without spelling it all out, is that if they need to come in and help, that's the intent. Okay. And then as I was looking through the terms and conditions, it seems like it's very much of a permissive type of process where it's a request and if feasible. It's not like
Mhm.
we're coming in, it's just like, hey, please.
Yep.
And if it works out, you say yes, and if not, you say, I'm sorry, this time it doesn't. Is that the way I'm reading this?
Pretty much. I mean, we do our best to accommodate. For example, I think last weekend, they called and said, hey, be on notice, we might need a place. So I reached out to my units to figure out what was going on in the different buildings to say, okay, if they call me, this is where I'm going to go if we can.
Okay.
So, and then we work with the Parks Department also, because sometimes they just need a parking lot. So
Mhm.
they might do Canal Creek South, or they might just need to do a practice or something. Right now, we're trying to work with the county because they want to do a training. So they'll probably use one of our parking lots.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, this is an action item with a recommendation. If no further, then someone care to make a motion? Director Huffer?
Yes, I'd like to move approval of staff recommendation to approve the evacuation shelter and temporary evacuation point agreement with the County of Ventura Human Services Agency.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Director Lane? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That will carry and move forward. Okay, next is 9A, reports and announcements. We have a number of items there with information, it's just informational item.
Yeah, he meant to say
Yeah.
10.
Oh, 10A, I'm sorry, 10A, yes. Just informational items. Any questions or comments on anything there?
Well, I'll
Yes,
just,
Director Lang?
thank you. Chair Nichols, I'd just like to compliment our Recreation Division on the report and all the information about the good things we're doing. So I'm continue to be impressed. Thank you.
I did have one question for the recreation. Well, it's listed out here on the recreation information. Changes in staffing, I was seeing that. I see you got a couple of, someone coming and going. But then beneath that in fall programming, there's a comment there that you did lose half of the adult basketball teams as a result of indoor mask orders, which made me remember that we had a letter to the editor complaining about adults wearing masks. So is that, I'm just curious, is when you say half, how many teams or people is that affecting? Are they just saying,
I
we
knew
don't want
you'd
to?
ask.
Okay,
So we had 29 teams signed up before the indoor mask mandate. We had 13 teams drop out, and we currently have 16 teams playing. So the nice thing is we had enough teams that still were willing to play with a mask on that we were able to keep the adult league going. So
and that was for all 13 teams, they said, we're not playing the game with a mask, so we're not going to play. That was their specific reason?
correct.
Okay. I guess a question I would have, which is just rhetorical because I don't know if anyone has an answer, is can we have a separate league that says, okay, if that league doesn't want to wear a mask, they can do it? Is that an option? So,
No, masks are mandated inside. So we do have on a good note, we have 32 teams in our youth program that are playing, and they are playing with masks, and they're playing volleyball also with masks. So it's not comfortable. I mean, we all know it's not. So, but it's doable.
okay, thank you.
Um,
Oh, yes, Director Cussler?
Could they play without masks if they went outside, or
Yes.
do we not have courts outside, or do they not want to go outside?
They don't want to go outside.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is department reports. Start with our Parks Division.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Nichols, Mayor of the Board. Whole bunch of good stuff going on. As I said in my email to you, we've got the dog park ribbon cutting coming up on the 23rd of this month at 9 a.m. We are opening the park on the previous Monday on the 18th, so the public will be able to get there and enjoy it for about 5 days before we have the ribbon cutting ceremony on that Saturday. Also on that same day, we're going to have the Canal Creek Southwest groundbreaking at 11 a.m. We had our pre-construction conference with the contractor this morning. We're ready to go. He'll probably start work in earnest on the 25th of the month. So a couple of days after the groundbreaking ceremony. We have been promised exquisite cuisine lunch from the Kiwanis Club of Thousand Oaks at the Canal Creek Southwest groundbreaking. So we're looking forward to that. Also, we're conducting a few neighborhood meetings at Lynn Oaks Neighborhood Park over off Capitan Street and Lynn, over the Newberry Park area. That property is leased by us from the school district. There's about 4 acres vacant there, and we're just going to reach out to the neighborhood. We're trying to make it very clear to them. We have no money, and we're just seeking some feedback on what some of their ideas are. Staff's already met on it. We did a very similar process with the Banyan Neighborhood Park about 8 years ago. But we just want to have a shelf-ready project just in case funding does come available. The Banyan, for example, took about 2 years of planning. And then about a year or two after that was when actually funding came available, but we were able to put it out to bid right away rather than go through the 2-year process of doing the design work. So we have a couple neighborhood meetings, which you're more than welcome to come, but just mostly like talking to the folks and getting their input. Those meetings are on the Wednesday, the 20th at 6 p.m. and Saturday, the 23rd at 1:30.
So Saturday, you can spend all day with us and then all nighttime at the Haunted Trail event. So you can be doing CRPD fun stuff from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. So you can have a good 12 hours, but your belly will be full with hot dogs, hamburgers, and coleslaw and beans from the Kiwanis.
And then a
We-
bag of candy at the end.
Yeah, oh yeah, right. And then some free candy at the end. That's correct.
What kind of candy?
Crackle bars and Reese's peanut butter cups. We're about halfway done with the Rancho Potrero Area 1 project that we're doing over in the Rancho Potrero specific area. That project should be done. ESPN, hey, just like Shoeless Joe. Sorry about that. That's going great. It looks fantastic. We had recreation staff out there. We gave them a little tour of what we're doing. We should be done with that probably around Thanksgiving time this year. Probably, if you remember, that was a grant from Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. Might hold off a little bit just because of weather concerns. Might have a grand opening for that probably like early 2022. We'll let you know when that happens. We recently had the job walk for the teen and global adult community center renovations for the rebid that we were doing. It was not a mandatory job walk for the previous bidders. We had an additional 6 or 7 new companies attend the job walk. So we might get some new interest in addition to, I think we had 7 bidders before, and we actually had about 23 people come to the job walk before. So who knows, maybe we'll get a half a dozen bidders on this and maybe some new blood with that. We're looking to take that to the board for award on November the 4th, if everything goes okay. And for your knowledge, just in case you drive by and see it, for the Canal Community Project, we're hoping to be a planning commission this fall, but we have to put up, well, I should have gone up today. I haven't seen it. The 4 foot by 8 foot giant sign that goes and says, notice of planning commission hearing. And it says just to be determined as far as the date goes. But so if you get any questions or if you see it, we'll have one of those big giant white signs there that will stay up there until the planning commission meeting. And lastly, the biggest announcement, November 13th, which is a Saturday, cornhole tournament against Canal Valley Unified School District.
Wait, could you repeat that? I couldn't hear.
Cornhole tournament against Canal Valley Unified School District. So I will send you an email, but we need 14 players total. And if board members play, we get extra, I set the rules that we get extra bonus. It's in a long story short, but it's like a round robin. If like me and Chuck play, we'll never play again together as a team. We'll be against 2 different school district folks, but then maybe Chuck and Lynn play the next round, but you play, I can't remember, 8 or 9 rounds, but you'll always have a different partner. But the way I worked it out and the school district agreed to that, whatever the board member scores with their partner, you get a bonus 25% on your score. Yeah, so I'll send that email out to you
Is
guys.
that because of our age or?
Because of our lack of skill.
It's our
Maybe a
handicap.
combination of both. But I'll send that email out to you just so to give you some time frame to sign up before we send it out to the staff. But so we're looking, and then even if you don't want to play and just want to come, it'll be fine. I haven't asked Chuck too, but we'd love to have Kiwanis provide lunch there. I'll put that in the email to you. But so we just kind of
We have corn dogs for cornhole.
Oh,
There
you're
you
so
go.
good, yeah. But even if you don't want to play, hopefully it's a good time and speaking ill of the school district because it's always fun. But we've kicked their butts in softball many times, and the last couple of times they just bailed on us. They backed out, and then COVID happened. So they had a couple of times where I told them we forfeited, and then they said we signed a whole bunch of 20-year-old rec leaders for one-day contracts. That's the reason we beat them. But I said so therefore they couldn't get hurt, by playing athletic sports. We said we just do cornhole. They agreed to it. So and I'll send that email out to you guys probably tomorrow. Yes, sir.
Didn't we do a football?
Yes, we did a futsal, the
And
ribbon
Los
cutting too.
Rios.
Yeah, when we beat
And we
them,
beat 'em.
when we beat them also, and a couple other guys fell down. they just kind of ran into me. I don't know what happened, but they didn't like that either. So it's just something real simple. So maybe we'll have some cornhole bags that are weighted that, every now and then we just can throw,
And this will be at Spring Meadow?
No, we're actually going to do it at Sopwith.
Oh,
Subway?
Yeah, at Sopwith. We're going to do it up at the upper terrace on Sopwith. Sports has, for our cornhole league, we've got 10 sets of boards, but we'll probably only need 7. But so spread it out. That's where they had the cornhole league was up there. So we're gonna do it up there.
oh, okay.
So again, I'll send the email out to you guys tomorrow.
Nice.
And I am available for questions.
I have a
Any
question.
questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So how many people usually come out to this? Like, how big of an event is it?
The cornhole?
Yeah.
But it's first time.
Well, how many would come out to the other events?
For the softball events, we would probably get
Hundreds and hundreds.
hundreds of, no, probably about 15 players on each side. And then maybe 15 to 20 folks just watching, whether they were spouses or just, just people just having a good time.
Is it open to all the staff of both the?
Oh, yes, yeah,
Canal
anybody,
and school?
any person who is affiliated, well, under contract as an employee or a board member can play.
It sounds like a really fun idea.
Mhm. Okay, thank you for that report. And next we'll go to Recreation Division.
Thank you, Chair Nichols, members of the board. So several things tonight. So one are from Hillcrest Center of the Arts, our cultural programs coordinator, Megan, was selected to serve on the City of Thousand Oaks Arts and Cultural Roundtable. The Arts and Cultural Roundtable will begin to advise the Thousand Oaks City Council on important matters of arts and culture throughout the community. So we're really proud to have someone representing CRPD on that group, and she's super excited about it. So we really appreciate that she's doing that. Just so you know, outreach, Pete had retired, and then we also, thank you. We also had Elizabeth leave us. So we had 2 open spots at outreach, and we are working with the school district, and we have hired 2 new people. One is a current employee, Luis Sanchez, and he has a bachelor's of science in criminology and criminal justice from Cal Lu. And so he has worked for us with Safe Passage, and so he's going to be moving over to outreach. And then we hired a new young lady, Cristal Rodriguez, and she has a sociology degree from Cal State Northridge. So we're excited. They should be starting, I believe, on Monday. So they've got a new team that'll be working with Dan
very
out
good.
there. So that's
Very
super exciting. Sarah will be overseeing that. And then just so you guys know, the Arts Council of Conejo Valley, we've been working on kind of reorganizing some things with them. So we have cooperative programs with them. And what we have done is, so the update, CRPD is now administering the elementary music program. So it runs through us now. And then ACCV is continuing to do the donations and funding the summer concert park center series. So they'll be donating to that still. And then Young Artists Ensemble is looking to partner currently with the TO Arts to fundraise and apply for grants with the TO Arts. And then lastly, on this one with ACCV, they have Hillcrest Presents, which offered all the other types of shows like the comedy shows and the magic shows and the classical music shows. So just so you know, those are under CRPD now, and CRPD staff is running those. And other things, America has stepped up, and she is partnering with Adelante. And we are working with the Shadows Apartment, and we're offering 2 classes out there currently where kids are able to get financial assistance, and the classes are actually on site so that there's no transportation issues for the families. We're running a kids club and a parent and me class right now. And there's possibility in the future of partnering with Adelante on tutoring after school and Fun Friday, similar to the other 2 programs that we run at now Acacia School and the Conejo Creek condo area. Just so you know, AB5, we're still waiting on some information regarding AB5 and our independent contractors. So once I know more information about things that we might have to do in the future, I'll let you guys know. Rainatary, you got an additional little flyer in it. I did talk to Bruce and Bruce said things are going okay. There's kind of a slow start. He's hoping that it'll start picking up in the next couple of weeks. So it's hard to compare it to years past, but he's hopeful that it's going to start picking up. So we're helping with some additional marketing and stuff. And then I don't know if Nellie was going to bring this up, but we've done, when Kathy was here, Nellie and Kathy worked on a museum flyer. We used to do a trifold. And so Charlene has kind of revamped it, so it'll be easier to print out and give out to people. But so this is almost a final draft. I don't think we've got everybody's approval yet on it, but so you guys have first dibs on what's really happening where at the museums. And then the last thing I just wanted to show you is I've been working with James on some information that I want to be able to pool, and you guys have kind of touched on it a little bit tonight, being able to pool, you know, who's taking what classes and where in our program. So here, what you can see, it's like, I can't see from far away, is all the green dots here are in district, the yellow dots are out of district. And what he did, and this was very quickly and very brief, so there's no super great intel on this yet, but I wanted you to see what we are working on him being able to do. So this is everybody in fall, we think, that took classes for us. So, you know, we're able to kind of.
Didn't hear what you said. Please, could you repeat that last sentence?
So this is folks that took classes with us in the fall.
In the fall.
In the fall.
Mm.
This past- Current. So, and so we can see that goes out pretty far to some different areas and stuff. So, and then we'll be able to, you know, scroll in and see, you know, oh, you know, this is neighborhood, you know, this row of houses didn't have any. We would just be able to ask more questions and start looking at things and go, okay, well, what classes did these people take? Was it sports? Was it after school programs? So he'll be able to start drilling down on those types of things and labeling them some different things. So we're pretty excited about being able to get into some analytical type things and use that information to, you know, maybe market different to an area or get out and ask those folks some questions on what they want, because maybe we're not offering what they want type of thing. So.
So Chuck, can you home in on Hidden Valley?
Again, this is not super accurate,
Mm-mm.
so it's. Yeah, it's just one season. It's a very
understand.
small amount of information. So there. Yeah. So we'll just be able to pull a lot more stuff. We'll be able to have James starting to dig in. And I think James had started to do some work for Jim specifically on things he was asking for. So I'm sure you guys will have some more information on that in the future.
I was gonna say, forget Hidden Valley, we got some other areas to work on. Especially like in Oak Park area where it's part of Rancho Simi, but geographically they're much closer to Canal. Yeah. Agura and Oak Park, yeah.
So it's just, it opened up some things. We were like, hey, James, can you do this? And he's like, yeah. And he was using a system that made it really hard for him. And so Matt today was like, hey, use Google, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And James like whipped it up and was like, that was way easier. So it'll be something we'll start playing with and just start looking at the
And
information.
can you
So
describe the yellow markers versus the green markers?
supposedly out of district. Out of district
In
is
and out of
yellow.
district.
You're
Yellow
right.
is out of district.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of green ones that are outside
Yep,
our
there
district
are. We
border.
don't know why. So it can be because they fibbed, but we're doing it based off of address. So yeah, how they, all the
Okay.
stuff we'll have to figure
All right.
out.
Well, for first time, it's great. Obviously, you gotta practice with some
You
of
know,
that.
like we'll be able to say, oh, all these people in CME, like, let's pull up, what are they taking? Are they all pickleball players?
Yeah.
Or are they, taking something else or going to the Global Center and they're participating in, the History Comes Alive, or they went to the McRae movie, or,
Mhm.
what is it that they're doing? So then we can go, oh, well, we might want to spend some money and market the McRae movies
Sure.
and some of the stuff out there. That's that. I'll give Gabby back before I break it. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Callis? All right, thank you for that information. Thank you for the help with that. Management Services, Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Chair and Directors. Hopefully you can hear me. Just really briefly, I wanted to give a quick update, not update, but a refresher on our per diem and travel reimbursement policy. I think I was new to it, and then we all had like a year and a half off and a little rusty. And I think Lynn had some questions, so I just wanted to refresh a little bit. We're also going to be having the policy come in December for the annual renewal, but just wanted to remind you that there's kind of three main reasons that we set up these policies. That the first is to make sure nobody incurs personal expenses on behalf of the district. The second is to make sure everyone's reimbursed the same amount for the same work performed. And so we want to make sure everybody gets the same amount. If Tom's doing something for us and gets lunch and Rochelle does too, it doesn't matter if Rochelle got lobster and Tom got a Big Mac, you guys are getting the same. So that's the second reason. And then the third is just convenience for us. Typically, if we're trying to nail down everybody on where's your receipt for your Big Mac, or did you fill your car with diesel? The staff time outweighs the cost of the actual meal or fuel. So just a reminder on those are the three reasons we really focus on doing that. And if you did get a Big Mac and you feel guilty that you got some more, donate it, play Canal or something like that. But just a refresher on that. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you for that clarification. Any questions? Okay, thank you. General Manager's report.
Just really quick, a follow-up to Melissa's report. She is recognized tomorrow night at the Chamber, one of Canal Valley Chamber's 40 under 40. Hope that it's not just widely available, given the crowd intensely small, so we need to win that. We'll get some sort of recognition there.
We're there in spirit.
And
Is it on TV?
I don't know, I don't think so. Rochelle's birthday was yesterday.
Whoa.
There you go.
And then I don't remember, did you mention the street fair? Okay, so I'm just gonna mention the street fair is
Yeah.
on Sunday, the 17th of October. Which is coming up. Not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, from 9 to 4, and CRPD will have a booth. And I know it's been a long time since we've been out and available to do this, like, larger crowd, so if that's something you're into, you're welcome to come hang out with the CRPD staff that are working there and just kind of interacting with the community and chatting with folks, so.
Do you have to wear your mask constantly?
No, you're
I don't
outside.
think so. No, you're outside.
Oh, okay.
But you would be talking to like thousands of people. If it were like prior years, I think 10,000 people come by. So that,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
so
a,
a lot of folks. But,
I don't know, I don't
anyway,
think we
it's kind
have
of fun
10,000.
if you're a board member and wanted to chit chat with people. It's kind of a fun place to do it.
Huh.
That's really fun. I'm just making that. And we do have need for closed session, and we've had a very patient council waiting to break into closed session. I told them to come maybe a little earlier than I should have, but with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Yes, Director Huffer.
I was just curious, Jim, why in our yellow folder that was sitting on our table, you have a couple of documents, one about the very large events and one about the compensable duties.
Oh, well, the compensable duties was what Melissa just mentioned. So that's the policy she was mentioning, because that includes your travel and, reasonable travel and reimbursement expense. That's where that is. I'm glad you actually asked that because the reason I stuck the very large community events at Canal Creek North and Canal Creek South is if you look at the date on when that memo was done and when it went to the board, it was after Doug and Nellie were elected, but before they got seated. So they may not have ever seen this memo and policy, and it just came into play this past week because Brian Hines is looking to do the borderline party in the park, which was contemplated after borderline, the anniversary to have an event. And he asked for 3,000 people initially at Canal Creek North. And we said, if you're really planning on 3,000, we got to go to the board and work around this policy because that would be more people than we currently are thinking. And he goes, I really only think 800 or so are going to show. So let's just say 1,000. And so that brought it underneath the policy threshold. So that's actually a good reminder on, we are coming up to the borderline anniversary. There is going to be a function on Saturday, the 6th. That's the party in the park. And Brian's working on trying to get an event for like 1,000 people or less. Then the following Sunday, and you'll get info on this, is the actual anniversary, the 7th. And there will be a function, I think at about 1 o'clock. The details are coming together. It's going to be, I think the interfaith leaders are working with the mayor and staffs to have a sort of a prayer vigil sort of function at the Healing Garden on the actual anniversary, and the families, of course. So more to come on that.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Director Cusworth?
Well, I mean, the thing that's just, I've been thinking about almost every day and night is how did you do at soccer,
Every
Mr. Friedel?
I'm getting worse.
I can't hear you.
She asked about soccer, and I am getting worse every year, but I will continue to go out there nonetheless.
So you did it.
I did it.
You were there. All
Yeah.
right.
And I haven't had to send them off once. Yes.
Thank you. Director's reports. Director Huff, we'll start with you in the left over here. Director's reports.
Okay, not too many things. When I did get over to Canal Creek North this morning for the volunteer fair. That was pretty impressive. They had 40-some groups that set up booths there and were handing out information. And Julie and her crew did a great job in putting that on. A lot of not just the volunteer organizations, but a lot of people wandering around and asking questions and getting information about all these great organizations that we have in our community. So I talked to Mike briefly, and he said the biggest problem they were having was, as is usually the case at Canal Creek North, that you run out of parking really quickly. So, but that was a good event. I did have a chance to get over either last week or I think it was the first week that they had reopened. Purchased a breakfast burrito over at the cafe. It's as good as ever, so I can highly recommend that.
Try that sometime.
Oh, it is so good. And the price can't be beat, so.
But we usually eat breakfast very early. So.
Brunch.
Yeah.
And then we had the yesterday, had the final tax session over at the Global Center. After tax season ends, that once a month they have an all-day session for clients who have to amend returns or never got around to doing their return. Or this year we had lots of clients who got letters from the IRS that sounded very threatening and confusing, and we say, don't worry about it, it's just a stupid letter, you can throw it away. So other than that, that's about all that I can recall having done related to the district.
Thank you. Director Holt.
Yes, well, I think I turned my sheet in, didn't I?
Mhm.
But what's not on there is I did go to Larry Horner's funeral, which was incredibly, it's not on my list, but it was incredibly impressive. And I'm glad I was there because I know her and, And so in a way, I represented Rec and Park just being there, but it was just an incredible service. So other than that, I don't think much has been going on.
All right. Director Cusworth.
Yes, well, a couple of things. I do want to announce that Voices of Old Canal is going on for their last weekend. And if any of you want to go to the 7 o'clock show on Saturday or Sunday, there is an incredible guide that will take you around and tell you about the people there. And I think this is great. I need to tell her that I approve. But another event, the California night, really incredible person's in charge of this night. So you might want to go. We're having tacos made on site and then watching the 1940 Mask of Zorro or Mark of Zorro. But what I wanted to point out with this is we saw, hey, McCray Ranch does really well with their movies. Why don't we start that? They do raffles. So we're saying, hey, why don't we do raffles? We're having one of the people at McCray Ranch who participates in the raffles is coming over to Stagecoach Inn. She's going to help us with their raffles, and one of their other volunteers is going to help with the raffles along with our Emporium manager, which I'm really glad that we're kind of getting ideas from each other and working together. A really exciting meeting I went to was talking about incorporating park field trips at schools that have parks next door with Rochelle and her staff, and kind of got the inkling of the idea from Mr. Hare, who has gone and done a field trip with, I think, Mr. Mooney over at Banyan School, because, the kids could just walk over. And then Rochelle and I went to at the conference in Monterey, a whole session about, hey, parks need to go into schools and do field trips, bring school children into their parks and do a field trip. And we thought, well, hey, we've got parks right next door to the school, so they don't even have to get a bus. They can just walk over. So met with her staff. They have a lot of great ideas. I think it's a good idea. Kids go home, they tell their parents, they bring their parents to the park. Hey, look what I learned. This is the name of this tree. This is what they're doing. Let me show you what I'm learning on science on these swing sets. Parents are impressed. Kids learn something. Kids teach parents. Plus teachers at the schools get to know park people, get ideas, just again, building bonds, building relationships. So we're going to try it out this year in, early spring. I'm hoping that it goes well and that we can continue on with this with other schools that might not be next door, but maybe even just walking distance to a park and bring kids into the park. Of course, I was at the AWA over at Reagan with a lot of you and Zoomed into the VSDA meeting, which I know some of you were there. And I really liked his analogy of moving parts. You could probably use that with almost any organization, but I thought he did a good job. So I did have a question with Haunted Trail. Is it sold out? You sent out something one time that you couldn't go because it was sold out. So I didn't get in time. Because that's for kids, right? I can't take my grandkids now.
You can call America and see if there's any tickets left.
Could you speak up because I can't really hear you.
You can call America and see if there are any tickets left. She was saving some tickets for board members, so I don't know
Oh,
if they've all
okay.
been taken yet or not.
So I'll
Who
put
is
here.
this? Who do you call?
The Haunted Trail, call America.
No, I know, but I can't, call America is what I heard.
Yeah, America, she's at the TO Center,
Right,
correct?
correct.
So I
Okay.
just call the TO Center?
Call the TO Center and see.
Or I could
America
email
too.
her, couldn't I?
Yeah, you can email her too.
All
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, they did have some tickets set aside for some board members at a certain time, so.
And then
but
I
it
can-
is sold out.
Yeah, and then I can get information just on our website for when days it is and the times.
Well, she only has certain spots.
I'll call
available. You
America.
need to call her. or
All right,
email her.
thank you.
Yeah.
All righty.
Thank you. Director Lane.
Yes, I'm going to start off with a greeting to a former CRPD board member and city council member, Dennis Gillette. He said to say hi to all his friends at CRPD. I, as indicated, attended the NRPA conference virtually. I had a couple very good sessions and the rest I would give a C- to. I just didn't feel the offerings were, that advantageous for me to, take time. I was really cherry picking. I've been involved with the MRCA situation with beach access. Some public members seek me out because of my position. And so I've been working with our MRCA beach access person and Joe Edmondson on that. And yesterday, as Melissa knows, we had a 4-hour MRCA board meeting. And we accomplished a lot, but we had, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 members from the public, speaking. And we don't have a time limit, on their talking. And finally, I said, I've got to communicate these people. If somebody before you said the same thing, but anyway, it's a long meeting. So
4
that
hours.
concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Director Cuthbert?
I wanted to mention, I'm sure you all know, but I believe that George just received an award from the Rotary that I read in the Acorn.
Last week's Acorn.
Yes, it was in last week's Acorn, and so what was that award, George, that you received?
John Conlon for my community volunteer efforts. And actually, it took place a couple months ago. And it just finally made the paper. And I've got a meeting with the editor tomorrow, so I'm gonna talk to him about that.
Oh, that took a couple months. Well,
Well, it was a photograph. It was nice.
It was
As you
very
know,
nice.
I mailed it to
Thank you. I appreciate that, Susan.
congratulations. So,
Thank you.
and very well deserved.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. See, I stopped by the Rancho Potrero facility on Sunday for the Ride-On Horse Show.
I didn't see you there.
We were there for just a few moments.
I
just
was
kinda
there too.
Went
too.
around the facility, but it was kind of a happening place. I think as I was driving in, I think I saw a little hairmobile kind of sneaking in the other way. But yeah, there's a lot of people there. They seem to really be hooping it up there. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say something about that, because we went there after church. We were going to have lunch. Well, whoever was going to serve lunch, that they didn't show up. What was it,
The
Jim?
Kiwanis Club.
Kiwanis. They couldn't make it. But I do want to tell you, I talked to a number of people, and they came from far away even to attend this. And I mean, they thought this was the best ever. And so that was a great compliment to our Rancho Potrero.
Sure, Nicholas.
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry, you were giving a report.
Yeah.
And I'm glad Director Holt brought this up because we too attended, and we stayed there a number of hours. And I know Mr. Hare and Mr. Frito were there earlier, but I missed you. But what I was going to say, compliment to CRPD Ride-On, is in the past, the boarders, didn't have much of a relationship or rapport with the management. And now there were 2 boarders who performed the judging of one of the Ride-On events. And that's never happened before. So, and then one of the judges happened to be a parent of Judy's kindergarten student many years ago. He's now 29. But there's the building of rapport and support for what we're doing there, Ride-On is doing. So we really struck it rich with how we pulled that off with Ride-On. So anyway, thank you, Susan, for mentioning it, and thank you for mentioning it also.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, no, that's okay. It's all good stuff. a report is a report, I'll take credit for all your comments, yeah.
Yeah,
Also attended the Ventura County Special Districts Association. I think a number of us were there either live or virtually. And then on the 28th of September, I listened in to the City Council Thousand Oaks meeting where they were hearing or approving the grant for the Canal Creek Southwest Park. So that was good to hear, and I was able to text them and thank them for the support afterwards, which they were very appreciative of, so that was good. And as far as an announcement, the California Association of Rec and Park Districts will be meeting, the Board of Directors will be meeting October 28th and 29th up in Sacramento, so I'll be flying for an overnight up there. So I'd be happy to report that when I'm through. So that takes care of that one. So next is item 12, requests for status reports and items for subsequent agendas. Is there anything? Okay, we'll move on. Ms. Gabby, do we have anybody hanging on from items from the public? Not this time. Okay. So with that, brings us to the executive closed session. Mr. Friedel, you want to introduce that for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair Nichols. We do have a need for a closed session conference with real property negotiators pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.8. It's real property, the Farland House at 1603 East Hillcrest Drive in Thousand Oaks. Agency negotiators are Jim Friedel, Tom Hare, Mark Sellers. And the purpose of the closed session is to discuss the potential price and terms for a possible sale, lease, or exchange of this property. No announcement is expected.
Okay, well, but with that, we will adjourn this portion of our meeting and then adjourn to the executive closed session. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Good night.
Good job.